and welcome back to HappyPorch Radio. Here we are for a new season, season 7 of HappyPorch Radio, and we're about to kick off. We're about to get started. So I think it's time that me and Barry, we have a sit down and we talk about this, where we're at, where we're coming from, and where we're going. How are you feeling, Barry?
Feeling pretty good. What is season 7? That's the question, I guess. Really fun exploring the circular economy, and we've done 2 seasons on very different and varied things. And it's really quite exciting we've had a bit of a hiatus between last season and this one. So we're back in action.
Re-energized and finding new inspiration to learn more about the circular economy. So as you say, we've done 2 seasons already around sort of circular economy things, different perspectives to look at the circular economy. Looking back on those 2 seasons, how do you feel about them? How do you feel sort of coming at this circular economy thing now we've had these 2 seasons?
It's really interesting, actually. I feel like the last couple of years, this may be sort of self-selected, my own bias of the world, the audience and the places I move, but that we're seeing more and more excitement and more action in circular economy. And so I think that's been reflected a little bit in the 2 seasons we've done. The first season was a conversation with multiple different businesses, different types of businesses doing technology products and circular economy work, which was fascinating and kind of really helped set the scene, I guess, and learn a little bit. And then last year we did circular economy in Africa, which is a very grandiose intent because that's, it's like a massive continent with a huge, but we had some amazing conversations there again, but it was completely different context. So I feel like those are very different and distinct 2 types of conversations we had, which have been really enjoyable, and that we're planning now a sort of a different one again.
Yeah, it's like there's a sort of a voice in my head thinking, another circular economy thing? Like, do we have enough juice for all of this? And then, as you say, it feels like there's more and more going on, and there's more and more stuff to talk about, and there's more and more activity around the circular economy. And what's more, like every time we've had conversations in the past, we always say the thing of, oh, we could just keep talking for another hour. So we're never short of material, really. So Barry, tell our listeners what to expect with season 7. Where are we going?
So season 7 is stepping out away from the coalface, if you like. The last 2 seasons, we talked to businesses doing very concrete, real world things. And now, and our hope is for season 7, we're kind of talking more and more to the people who are assisting others, whether that's in terms of consultancy, advice type work, or whether it's agency sort of driving design and innovation type work, or whether it's educational and training. But the fundamental, the support people, the people who are helping others to really make circularity happen. That's the hope anyway, and that we can kind of do this really high level conversations that give us themes and patterns, but also tie that back to some of the reality and the concrete that we've had in previous seasons.
That idea of like zooming out and not just being, because actually I've really loved those conversations where we get into the detail of like, what are you doing in your specific environment with your specific system to, promote circularity and build a circular system. And that's been really interesting. And you'd get into like the minutiae of things, but to zoom out, which we've done a little bit in some of the past seasons when we've talked to people who, run networks or like bigger organizations or something, but to zoom out really far and talk to people who are not, as you say, like at the coalface, they're not on the ground sort of doing that small detailed stuff. They're at a level of support. They're at a sort of external level to it. That I think is going to give us a really interesting perspective. And it's great that there's these people who are consultants or advisors, as you say, but they are actually specifically, they're in this niche of the circular economy. And yeah, that probably means they're like experts and we're going to get to pick their brains, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good that's one of the amazing people that we have the honor of joining us on the podcast. It always blows me away how much passion and energy there is. There is something to what you just said, or sort of maybe challenging a little bit of something you just said. I had a really interesting conversation with somebody recently about how the circular economy becomes, or this kind of mindset becomes like a lens that you see everything. And so more and more, like the circular economy is this broad umbrella term that covers a sort of mindset or an approach. It's not a niche in the same way as a sort of a vertical niche or a sector or a type of technology or a type of business. And so actually it's quite difficult not to see everything in circular economy terms, particularly when we start thinking about, okay, well, everything we do in modern society involves products and physical things, and they're all made and they all have complex web of supply chains and things behind them and a sourcing of things, and then we're owning or using or temporarily owning or operating things. It basically becomes almost too high and too theoretical and too sort of, well, this is everything in the world. But what's interesting, I hope, about the kind of people that we're planning to speak to is they are turning that sort of systemic thinking into action by working out how to support others or educate others or train or actually get involved in projects. And so I feel like maybe we can explore a little bit of that journey of going from this very conceptual, vague economy type language, and then the very specific little examples of businesses doing real concrete things. But then what's the patterns and the things that are joining those together and allowing us maybe to move towards genuine systemic change, and rather than the small tiny things that often feel like, well, they're a bit isolated. But what's the systemic change that can really lead us to the exciting opportunities that I think when we talk about circular economy, that we're looking for?
Yeah, I think you're right with the idea of it being a lens through which you see sort of everything. It's kind of like, in the Matrix where you can take like the blue pill or the red pill. And it's like you've taken the pill, you can never unsee it, and then it just becomes a part of how you see the world and how you experience the world and how you interact with the world. Yeah, I totally see that. So as we move into season 7 of HappyPorch Radio, maybe we should say, actually, if there's anybody who's listening who is really interested but actually a bit lost and not really sure what we mean when we talk about circular economy and sort of the definition of that, I suppose, we're not going to go into that in this season. We've done it in seasons 5 and 6, both, I think. So if you are listening and a bit sort of questioning what circular economy even is, go back to season 5, have a listen. You'll love it. And then listen to season 6. You'll love that as well. And then you can come back and listen here, because we won't really be going into like those definitions so much. But what are you most excited about or most looking forward to as we go into this season 7, Barry?
So many things. The real exciting thing for me is touching on what we were saying there about systemic change. I talk a lot about the big problems we're facing. Climate change, waste, biodiversity loss, species, there's all these big, scary sounding problems. What is exciting is when we can flip the conversation around to say, well, what are the things that we're doing? Not just to, okay, there's a problem, major problems that need fixed. What kind of society do we want to create? What's the positive? What's the vision for where we're going? And when we speak to people who are working on this systemic level change day to day, they're often talking and seeing, they're driving towards something and multiple different things. So that's the part that I'm excited about. We don't need to obsess about problems. We're not ignoring the problems, but like, what's the opportunities and exciting things that can help us do more than solve or more than slightly salve the problems that we're facing? I think that's the part that I'm excited about.
Yeah, nice. I think I'm sort of excited about the same thing. And also, I've spoken about hope before when we've talked about circular economy, and that's sort of what I hear when you say looking at the solutions and looking at like where we can go rather than focusing on these big problems, is the idea of like there is hope and we can like see it through all the clouds of despair when we talk to people who are working on these solutions. And I think what I'm most excited about for season 7 in particular is that we're going to be talking to people who have a bit more of an overview of this like whole system and the whole movement. And that sense of like, we're doing something collective, we're making things happen as a movement, that really is exciting to me. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that and how we can all contribute to it, but also just like what's out there, what's going on, what's the big picture. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. There's a fascinating book I am in the process of reading at the moment, written by a chap called John Alexander, which is about, well, the book is called Citizens, and why the key to fixing everything is all of us, which I think is a really, and I will link to that because I think there's some really fascinating things there in exactly what you're describing. So the core of his argument is that we need to move from a consumer mindset where we're just, things happen to us, we buy things and we're in this just consuming, to a much more engaged and involved, and we have agency and we're sort of empowered and allowed. And in fact, it's good to be involved in society in the broadest sense, whatever that means. And what he calls that the citizen story. And I think that's exactly what we can do, start to really explore with this season. Is it's not the economy in our world, on our lives, isn't something that just happens to us. What are the exciting opportunities and ways that we can be positively involved in exciting positive change? And to do that, we need to understand, right? So we need to, and that's what's exciting by these amazing people who are doing this work. We can learn from them. We can see the things that they're doing, and then we can try and bring those things to our work, our companies, our careers, and our lives. And from my particular lens, the thing that I'm excited about is, or driven about, is we all have professional skills, or businesses that have particular talents and strengths. So what are the ways that those things can be leveraged to be really beneficial? And how can we get engaged instead of just passively saying, hey, these things are happening to us? What's our citizen story?
Nice. Really nice. Yeah, I mean, as humans, we're like collective creatures. We want to be part of something. And what better thing to be part of, this wonderful circular economy experiment.
So yeah, that's pretty exciting. Let's get on with it. Looking forward to season 7 coming out in a few weeks.
Can't wait to dive in. Let's do it. Thank you for listening to this episode of HappyPorch Radio. You can find past episodes, transcripts, and show notes at happyporchradio.com. You can also get in touch with us there and let us know what you think, or if you have any ideas or comments. Please rate the podcast, share, and subscribe so that more people can find the show.
Thanks for listening. My name's Barry O'Kane. I founded HappyPorch, who fund and support this podcast. At HappyPorch, we do technology and software development for purpose-led businesses, and we're particularly excited about the role of digital as an enabler for the circular economy. If you're working on solutions to the big problems we face today, problems like climate change, biodiversity loss, and global inequality, then let's connect. Visit happyporch.com and get in touch.
And I'm Emily Swaddle, podcaster, coach, facilitator, and storyteller. You can find me on my other podcast, The Carbon Removal Show, and you can find out more about that project and everything else I do at emilyswaddle.com, where you can also subscribe to my newsletter all about rest. If you're interested in anything I do, feel free to connect. You can email me on hello@emilyswaddle.com.